you line up every morning for that artisanal flat white in Melbourne or Sydney, assuming that because Australia has the strictest food standards in the world, your beans are pristine. But what if the commercial blend in your local cafe hopper was roasted months ago, stored in a humid warehouse, and crawling with mycotoxins? Which of the 13 major brands on your supermarket shelf are you drinking right now? We love to boast about our coffee. From Melbourne laneways to boutique roasters in Brisbane, Australia has built an international reputation for taking our morning brews seriously. We talk about origin notes, micro lots, and extraction times like connoisseurs. But walk into any major Australian supermarket or look at the bulk distributors supplying half the corporate offices in the country, and you'll find a completely different reality. Beneath the sleek, matte packaging and eco-friendly buzzwords, much of the coffee Australians consume daily is old, poorly stored, and stripped of quality. We are going to look past the marketing gloss to examine the 13 coffee brands dominating our shelves that fail basic health and ethical transparency tests. And then we are going to pivot to the 7 safe, high-standard roasters that actually respect the bean and your body. The phrase, packaged in Australia, is one of the most brilliant pieces of linguistic sleight of hand in our entire grocery landscape. It tells you nothing about where the bean was harvested, how long it sat in a rusted steel shipping container crossing the equator, or whether those green beans baked in the dark hold of a cargo ship for 40 days before hitting a processing plant in Western Sydney. Green coffee is an agricultural seed, not a permanent metallic artifact. When exposed to maritime humidity and thermal shifts during long-haul transport, bulk commodity greens undergo accelerated lipid peroxidation. The natural oils inside the bean begin to go rancid before a single flame touches the roaster drum. When those stale, oxidized beans finally get pulverized months later, the volatile aromatics that give specialty coffee its vibrant character have long evaporated, replaced by flat, bitter compounds that manufacturers mask with aggressive dark roasting. Supermarkets exploit a psychological vulnerability, the comfort of aesthetic greenwashing. A bag printed with earthy tones, rustic typography, and a fictional founding date from 1924 triggers our instinct for uneaten too. Yet, brand number 13 on our chopping block Mokaina's classic commercial roast lines relies entirely on this visual architecture. While heavily marketed as an indulgence, mass-produced instant and pre-ground variants sit on warehouse pallets for the better part of a year, losing volatile compounds and developing flat, stale profiles that rely on chemical adjustments and milk-heavy delivery to become palatable. Moving down to brand 12, International Roast represents the absolute bottom tier of industrial survival fuel, sourced from anonymous bulk multi-origin greens that fail to meet grading thresholds for whole bean retail. These beans are treated as fungible chemical inputs rather than agricultural products. There is zero traceability back to a farm gate, let alone a cooperative. Brand 11 brings us to Harris Coffee, a household pantry fixture whose glossy packaging suggests heritage craftsmanship. Dig past the marketing and you find a high-volume commercial operation owned by global conglomerates, utilizing bulk blended Robusta beans imported from low-cost industrial plantations where chemical pesticide monitoring is lax and third-party fair trade auditing is sparse. Brand 10 is Vittoria Coffee's mass-market supermarket beans. While Vittoria commands immense respect for its high-end cafe relationships, their commercial retail bags sitting on Coles and Woolworths shelves tell a different story. These beans are mass-roasted in massive industrial batches, where temperature spikes cause exterior charring while leaving the core underdeveloped, leading to a cup that tastes overwhelmingly astringent and burnt. Brand 9, Campos's heavy commercial distribution lines found in secondary grocery channels, shows how a once respected specialty name stretches its supply chain too thin. To meet national supermarket volume demands, the roasting protocols shift from precision craft to high-throughput automation, diluting the single-origin transparency that made the brand famous in the first place. Brand 8, Grinder's Coffee, owned by Coca-Cola Amatil, operates on an industrial scale that prioritizes shelf-stable uniformity over seasonal freshness. The beans are stored in massive silos, where moisture migration encourages micromold proliferation before high-temperature drum roasting incinerates any remaining organic variants. Brand 7, Lavazza's standard supermarket range, imported from massive European processing hubs, spends months in transit before reaching Australian shelves. By the time you tear open the foil, the bean oils have oxidized into a dull, papery taste profile that requires heavy sugar just to make it drinkable. The tension ramps up as we hit the heavy hitters, the six most iconic commercial giants and supermarket monopolies that dominate Australian pantries and office kitchens. Brand 6 is Merlot Coffee's heavy retail lines. While wearing the badge of Brisbane pride, their supermarket distribution relies on mass blending strategies that submerge distinct regional attributes beneath generic, heavy-handed chocolate and nut profiles, designed to please the lowest common denominator. Brand 5 is LOR, the sleek aluminum capsule giant owned by Jacobs Douay Egberts. The marketing screams Parisian sophistication, but the reality is an industrial packing machine turning out shelf-stable pods filled with commodity-grade Robusta and Arabica blends that were roasted months prior to nitrogen-flushed sealing. Brand 4 is Nescafe's premium roasted bean selections, a corporate titan that leverages supply chain dominance to squeeze coffee farmers in developing nations while delivering an over-roasted, high-acrylamide product to everyday shoppers. Acrylamide forms naturally when carbohydrate-rich coffee beans undergo prolonged, extreme heat roasting past the second crack, turning a benign seed into a chemical minefield of bitter industrial residue. Brand 3 brings us to Coles and Woolworths' home-brand coffee labels. These private label budget bags are the ultimate manifestation of ruthless cost-cutting, utilizing spent coffee grounds or bottom-of-the-barrel commodity scraps sourced from non-verified plantations, where labour transparency is non-existent. Brand 2 is Robert Timms, an Australian grocery staple for decades. The brand trades heavily on nostalgia and convenience, but their pillow packs and bags contain multi-origin blends that have suffered extensive styling, structural oil breakdown, and zero proof of ethical farmer compensation. And at number 1 on our avoid list is Moccana's bulk roast and ground variants, the absolute peak of industrial marketing illusion. You are paying for a glass jar and a heritage narrative while consuming stale, heavily processed commodity beans that have been sitting in distribution centers so long they require artificial aroma retention sprays just to smell appealing when you pop the lid. Before we pivot to the clean list, let's talk about the identity marketing trap. Enter Blue Moon or various tactical, rugged, skull and crossbones lifestyle coffee brands popping up on social media, marketed toward gym goers, tradies, or military enthusiasts. These brands use high-octane aesthetic imagery, tactical fonts, dark matte pouches, and promises of extreme caffeine kicks to distract from the exact same commercial sourcing flaws we just tore apart. You aren't paying for superior soil composition, high-altitude microclimates, or ethical direct trade premiums. You are paying a $20 markup for a skull logo pasted over standard, mass-imported Brazilian commodity Robusta. It is time to reverse the polarity and look at the roasters doing the hard, honest work. Coming down our trust list at number 7 is 7 Seeds from Melbourne. They don't just talk about transparency. They publish exact farm gate prices, farmer names, and seasonal harvest dates directly on their bags, maintaining meticulous cold chain storage for their green beans until the moment of roast. At number 6, On a Coffee out of Canberra and Melbourne approaches extraction and roasting through a scientific lens, pioneering carbonic maceration and experimental processing methods, while maintaining absolute fidelity to the farmers who grow the cherries. At number 5, Market Lane Coffee strips away the noise with a laser-focused dedication to single-origin transparency, working exclusively with growers they visit personally year after year. At number 4, Proud Mary brings a relentless commitment to direct trade, paying well above fair trade minimums to ensure farmers can invest in sustainable soil management rather than chemical shortcuts. At number 3, Single O in Sydney champions environmental stewardship alongside exceptional cup quality, using recycled packaging, electric delivery vehicles where possible, and sourcing micro lots that showcase true regional terroir. At number 2, Mecca Coffee focuses on clean, sweet, and vibrant profiles achieved through light to medium micro-batch roasting that preserves the delicate organic acids and natural sugars of the bean without a trace of char or bitterness. And at number 1 on our trust list is Axel Coffee Roasters, setting a domestic benchmark for rigorous quality control, cupping every single batch for purity, and maintaining uncompromised relationships with elite micro-producers across the globe. To understand what a truly world-class, uncompromised cup tastes like, look at pioneers like Melbourne Coffee Roasters or Small Batch Roasting Company, who track every single harvest down to a specific hillside plot in Ethiopia or Colombia. When you brew freshly roasted, unpolluted, mineral-balanced coffee from these micro-batch artisans, the cup isn't an assault of bitter charcoal. It is bright, clean, complex, and sweet, resembling stone fruit, jasmine, or dark chocolate with a sparkling acidity that leaves your palate refreshed rather than coated in heavy oils. Coffee is the fuel of our daily momentum. Accepting stale, chemically compromised mass-market beans is a tax on your vitality. The next time you order a flat white or brew at home, remember that true quality starts long before the water hits the grounds.